All right. I know we're going to get a lot of comments on this one, but let's go ahead and do it. Is Zionism a form of fascism? There are multiple angles, multiple threads that go off of this, and I'm not even going to scratch the surface. I'm going to let y'all do that. But let's do it. Let's jump into it, see how far we get, and how much I'm willing to go, and then I'm going to say, nah. Okay. So the idea of Zionism. A lot of people point to Theodore Herzl, and of course, Theodore Herzl originally came up with his ideas when he was living in France and saw the Dreyfus Affair and other anti Semitic feelings in France. And because of that, he came up with these ideas of Zionism. Now, of course, I have not read the whole pamphlet of Judenstaat, or the Jewish state, that he wrote about, which is considered more of the beginnings of Zionism. Now, of course, I know what people are going to say. That's not the real origin of Zionism. The real origin of Zionism is the religious Zionism, the belief that we are meant to go back to Israel and whatnot because of, this sort of thing. And then, of course, you're going to have folks who are going to say, well, according to, real Orthodox Judaism, is that until the until the Messiah returns, we're not meant to go back to Israel. And like I say, there are numerous things. There are going to be numerous things I leave out. But of course, this kind of reveals the story that I think a lot of folks kind of leave out. And I think they do it because they don't want to appear anti-Semitic themselves. Such as the fact of, the Stern Gang. You can go ahead and determine how effective the Stern Gang really was and everything else like that. They were considered a threat by the Brits. And that movement kind of got swallowed up, I think, by the larger sort of atheistic Zionist attitude. Like I say, atheistic Zionism is primarily the form of Zionism today, in my opinion. It's like, yeah, you can go ahead and talk about the religious Zionism of folks, that really learn about Judaism and everything else like that. But that's not really the primary form. Zionism has been able to adapt itself amazingly well. I don't say that as a good thing. I just say that's a realistic thing. Because you have to remember is that Zionism, created the Israeli state as we know it, and still keeps up racial laws where it's like the Chinese workers going to Israel. You can't have any relations with Israeli women. They have to sign these forms like, yeah, you can't go around smashing our women, So it's still fairly racial. Now, of course, the thing is that there are plenty of folks, I haven't mentioned this, but I'll go ahead and say it now, in my very schizo rant here. But there are many who say that Zionism was a liberation movement. And that is how Stalin viewed it. That is how the Soviet Union saw it until the war, the 1968 war. After that, there was support for Israel up to that point, and then switched sides and, supported, the Arab resistance, realizing that Zionism is just another form of American imperialism. And to a point, I can believe that. I know I've gone back and forth and said, who really controls Israel? Is it the United States or is it whichever, who control, who's the puppet master and who's the puppet, is the United States the puppet of Israel or is Israel the puppet of the United States? I'm not going to get into that. What I will say is it's a very messy thing. I think that it's a very different thing as well in terms of, yeah, they are racial in the sense that, yeah, Ashkenazi Jews are the top. Oh boy. Yeah, I purposely said it that way. I'm sorry, but Ashkenazi Jews are at the top, and generally speaking, everybody else is further down the line. Very common is that you can have some Jewish guy from New York, um, who of course looks fairly white, quote unquote. I know we're not going too racial. We're not doing that, but who looks fairly white, and he can end up doing that. And you hear these folks, "Oh yeah, well I was over here," and oh my goodness, it's like, oh wow, you're from New York, aren't you? You're not really from Israel. Well, yeah, I mean, I come here every summer to experience it. I bring my daughter, or whatever accent you want to try to say. But Zionism is one of those things I think that a lot of folks really don't want to tackle. And I just want to make sure here, I do encourage Zoltanus HN and Fascists, hey, get a video out about Zionism and what it really is. And I would encourage you to look up people like Abba Kovner, who was more of a Marxist and was part of, the group called, Nakam, that did poison German, civilians, some SS folks, at the Langwasser prison camp. They were planning on poisoning millions of people through the water supply. This is not conspiracy theory, this and that. I've talked about it before, but you know, Abba Kovner was a socialist, and was part of the group known as, or excuse me, part of the political party called Mapai, or excuse me, Mapam. Mapai was the suck down party, but Mapam, which was considered more of a Marxist Leninist party. But the thing is, though, is that they kind of superseded themselves to their sort of racist views about Arabs, this and that. And because of that, the whole Marxist Leninist stuff kind of disappeared, you know? Like I say, I'm not even touching the surface. But I think that in general, Zionism has been able to manifest itself and in such a way that it's been able to adapt fairly easily. People can give the image that Ethiopian Jews are treated so well in Israel and all this sort of thing. In reality, they're not. In reality, just as racist as anywhere else. You want to find groups that are really racist, that are separate from the rest. I'm just gonna leave it there. But like I said, I've already posted enough about. I would say this is that no, generally speaking, no, Zionism is not a form of fascism. I think that Zionism is something that can adapt itself. Currently, it's more of an atheistic sort of, we give lip service to Judaism, but only when it's valuable to us. And they're going to, of course, denounce the crazies to a point. They're going to allow, the crazies like oh man, I can't even think of his name now. Baruch Goldstein. Is that his name? Baruch Goldstein, I think. I think it was. Yeah, Baruch Goldstein. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, Baruch Goldstein, the shooter who went in, and there are still memorials, and there's still we're glad that he shot those Palestinians, this and that. And he was, of course, a follower of Meir Kahane. Of course, himself, like I say, Meir Kahane. There's another aspect as well that I think if people actually research this guy, you see how full of shit he was. He, as much as he claimed, it's something I do deeply believe is that people who go on and on about race and deeply go on about religion, those folks are usually the most fucked up. They're usually the folks who really have something to hide. People like Meir Kahane, slept with an Italian woman when he was living in New York. Basically, she tried to get him to leave his wife, didn't want to. She ended up killing herself. This and that. There are other stories about Maya Kahana, but like I say, we are just barely touching the surface here, and this is 10 minutes in. But yeah, basically, I think that Zionism takes some aspects of fascism while also trying to promote itself as a liberation movement to a point. And of course, this, like I say, but then people saw through that and saw what was occurring, this and that. And it's a very, like I say, I think I'll leave it there. Let's go ahead and see how many people get pissed off about it. I don't really care. But hopefully Zoltanus can see this, bring it to the fascists and say, maybe we need to do some research on this. Anyway, hopefully it's going to be, hopefully this stirs a conversation. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But hopefully somebody can get something out of this. Anyway, see you later. Goodbye.